Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Buckets. If you're over on YouTube, go ahead and give us a subscribe and a like to help the video do better in the algorithm. It's much appreciated. And if you want to enjoy this as an audio-only experience, check us out over on Spotify. One quick announcement, I am going to be live streaming 2K My League stuff going forward this year, and I'm specifically going to be live streaming tonight when this video goes up. It might even be a little bit into the early afternoon. Episode 1 of my My League series will be up soon. That's just a cut of the thing. If you liked my League stuff in the past, go ahead and check it out. Different format. Should be fun to do it live. But with that said, we are back with our news episode, which we're doing these every Monday during the off season, and then during the regular season, we will probably be doing them every Monday and Friday. There's not a lot of news during the off season. That's just kind of the way it goes, hence why we reduced it to one a week. But there is some important stuff that went around the league. Just to summarize the topics real quick, there were some small moves, there were a couple of contract extensions, there was some more Rudy Gobert drama as there was in the last episode that we talked about. Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle. The primary thing is it looks like his relationship with the Knicks might be up, so let's go ahead and talk about that first. He took to Instagram, and there was this post that there are currently no Julius Randle jerseys for sale in Madison Square Garden. He goes, "Word, this is how y'all feel," at Knicks laughing emoji. Obviously, you see there the Bridges jersey there, Anunoby there, even DiVincenzo, but they don't, even Josh Hart, but they don't got room for the guy who was an all-star for them multiple times. He posted soon after that, "The truth shall come to light." Classic cryptic NBA player shit, where it's clearly something's going on behind the scenes and we're not really allowed to know. And this is something that I have speculated on, not that it would go down in some sort of dramatic fashion like this, but rather that Julius Randle could be the odd man out on the New York Knicks. Because when I look at the structure of the roster and the ideal way for them to play, it doesn't really involve Julius Randle. First of all, Julius has been a really bad playoff dropper throughout his career. He did get better in year 2 than he was against the Atlanta Hawks the first time he was in the playoffs with the Knicks. But since then, he got injured. He didn't end up being a part of their run last year. And a lot of the success that team had ended up being ruined by injuries to further players. But OG Anunoby as a forward, Dante DiVincenzo's three-point shooting, rather than this mid-post ISO mid-range game where, you know, he would work as a playmaking hub at times, or he would shoot some three-pointers, which often were a little ill-advised. Rather than doing something like that, instead, it's swing offense. It's initially primarily done by Jalen Brunson, and then you just have a bunch of athletic forwards who are capable of creating their own shot to some extent. Like OG Anunoby is not someone you want taking a bunch of off-the-dribble shots, but he can attack a closeout, he can hit a mid-range pull-up if he needs to, and obviously the addition of Mikal Bridges is exactly in line with that. He will hit a catch-and-shoot three, but he can also drive inside, he can hit a mid-range pull-up. He was doing a little bit too much of that in Brooklyn, but ultimately, the guy's a 20-point-per-game scorer on decent enough efficiency. He's capable. Obviously, I don't think he's going to get to 20 with this Knicks squad, but he is going to be a prominent part of that offense. And I do wonder if the Knicks look at how they work as a whole and go, I don't know if Julius is really a piece here. Because while he's still good and still capable of doing a lot of things, even at an all-star and all-NBA level as he has in the past, I know Randle is routinely shit on a lot, but like playoff dropper or not, he does play well during the regular season. It's more about the play style, and specifically the amount of forwards they have, the amount of guards they have. They want to play DiVincenzo at the 2, they want to play Hart, they want to play OG, they want to play Mikal. There's going to be an abundance of forward minutes. Julius, I don't really think can play small ball center too much. I think it can work a little bit. I think he can work in certain lineups, but otherwise you're going to have to play him alongside Mitchell Robinson, given Julius's inconsistent spacing, inconsistent three-point shooting, especially in a playoff setting. It might be better just to have another 3-and-D forward out there rather than the skill set that Julius Randle brings to the table. I think that Jalen Brunson in last year's playoff showcased that he has the ability to, I don't want to say carry the offense, but The offense can be good enough and go really far under his leadership, and then the defense can be a matter of we have all these athletic forwards and they're gonna fuck your day up. Julius Randle isn't really going to fit into that schematically on either end of the floor. I do think him at small ball 5 could be interesting, but I don't think it's something to bank on, and I don't think it's something that the Knicks are all that interested in banking on. So something like the guy's jersey no longer being in the store, that doesn't seem like it's all that big, but it's not nothing. It's definitely not nothing, and it could be a sign that from the front office's perspective, Randle might be a little bit out the door. I don't necessarily think it means it's something huge, and it could just be like Bridges ended up taking up all the jerseys because he's the new guy, and obviously new guy equals new jersey sales. A lot of people already have a Julius Randle jersey if you're a Knicks fan. But no, I definitely think this is something. I definitely think it's interesting. I did propose the idea. I think I did this on the Shoot Around, my podcast with Motown Noah, Alex Hoops, and Rudy. I do feel like he could work as a sixth man, but I don't know if he's gonna jive with that, especially the type of player who makes a cryptic Instagram post or like directly calls out their franchise publicly. That type of dude probably isn't all too hyped about coming off of the bench, and either way you'd have to play him big minutes, and I think it might just be disruptive. What an actual trade for him looks like is interesting, because what I mentioned about his play style not really fitting in with what the Knicks do, well, it also doesn't really fit in with what everybody does. It's kind of an older approach to the game, an old man approach to the game. I'm not saying he's strictly like an old school player, but like that mid-post forward who takes a bunch of mid-range shots, that's not very 2024 basketball. It's just not. So there's a lot of teams that are already good and already have a scheme that Julius doesn't fit into. So it would probably be a team that's a little desperate to get some talent on the roster, or they are absent of a lead option and Julius can be that. But if you have like a young guard that you want to bring up and have them develop, I don't know if you want Randle there. And if you have established players, I don't know if you want to force them and their games to adjust to Randle's game. This is kind of similar to how I feel about DeMar DeRozan, a little bit about how I feel about Brandon Ingram. It's like, you are good, but do you fit an NBA roster? And it's maybe debatable if you don't fit an NBA roster, are you actually that good? But the truth is, you need to be good enough at your shot creating stuff to justify disrupting what the system would otherwise look like. And based on how he has performed in the playoffs, Julius Randle has given us no indication that it's worth breaking up what I think the Knicks, the Nova Knicks, can do. That team, I think, can be the second best team in the conference. I think they're very well equipped to beat the Boston Celtics, and I don't think Julius Randle has a lot to do with that. I want to make it clear, I'm not saying Randle's bad, but he is a little bit awkward of a fit, and that is a problem for them. Maybe they are moving on from him. Maybe that's why this is happening. Anyways, moving on, we are going to talk about the contract extension for Jamal Murray. So Jamal Murray has signed a 4-year, $209 million extension. That's on top of the year that he had on his deal going into this. So he now is owed $245 million over 5 years, which is nearing $50 million a year territory. It's right on the cusp of it. He definitely will probably have 50+ year salary in other years. The way that the NBA is going, that's actually not really going to be all that ridiculous in the coming seasons. We already have, I think Giannis has an $80 million player option on his current contract. So this is something that's going to be happening. I think a lot of people do not adjust their brain to, like, the NBA's inflation of contracts is much higher than it is in, regular inflation, I guess. These guys are being paid so much more money, and Jamal Murray is someone who has not been an all-star before, and frankly, I don't think he will be. And if he does, this is a take that I'm borrowing from Motown Noah. He said, like, he might get it as like a Mike Conley in Utah, somehow getting the all-star nod as like just a salute, I guess, to a really good career. But I really don't think the guy is going to be a perennial all-star, and to be making maximum money is questionable. Obviously, dude played fucking phenomenal for their championship run. And if you want to view that as, hey, he cashed in a title, that means that he should get paid a lot, I get it. I completely understand why Denver did this, but I do have some concern for what this team looks like in the future, because they're now extremely committed to Jamal Murray. I think with the $50 million price tag, there are teams that would trade for Jamal. And if the right type of deal came up, I could see you actually getting something real nice for the guy, but he wasn't good in the playoffs last year. Apparently injury was somewhat of a factor in that, so give him a little bit of credit there, but he did not play well. If the guy is not going to be all-star level production, and in the postseason he's not going to turn it up to the level that he has in the past, and you're stuck with that guy as your second option, or you trade him and get something that's not really going to be all that much better, then I do worry, because they're also really committed to Michael Porter Jr. He's making $30 million plus a year. I think Aaron Gordon, I think I saw somewhere that his extension was around the corner, so they're going to be committing to that core four. Didn't want to pay out KCP the same amount, or I guess that is, there's conflicting information as to whether or not they actually paid KCP properly or were willing to, but that's the one guy who's the most replaceable on that starting lineup. But after that, if you're going to replace either of these guys, you need to get somebody on their level. And I think with Jamal's contract at this level, if there is a decline, if he isn't able to replicate what happened in 2023, wouldn't be shocked if they're kind of just stuck with this middling roster and Jokic is fucking amazing, but the rest of the team isn't all that great. Going into this year, I do think a lot of people are discounting Denver a little bit too much. That said, I would say they're the third most likely, for me, based on my prediction, third most likely team to make it out of the Western Conference. And in case you were curious, I have the Thunder and the Mavericks as bigger threats to come out of the West. It's committing. It's committing. You won a championship with that core four, so I get it. And KCP is a player that you can replace. So I understand locking into a core four that you know has won a championship, but just because a core has won a championship doesn't mean they're guaranteed to do it in the future. The Milwaukee Bucks really committed to their core after they won a championship, giving big bags to Chris Middleton and I think Drew Holiday as well. Maybe that was previous to it, but they were really committed to that roster, and it really didn't work for a couple years in a row, and then they end up making the Damian Lillard swap. Injuries a factor there as well, but you know, the ability for a franchise to just kind of be a contender for a while afterwards but not be all that amazing, it's very much there. It's very tangible, very real. If you want to be negative about this move, it could be that. Otherwise, congrats to Jamal Murray for getting paid. Shaquille O'Neal said some bullshit about Rudy Gobert, because of course he did. He, on a podcast, said that Rudy Gobert is one of the worst NBA players of all time. Also saying that Ben Simmons is another bum. Nice. Class act Shaq always is. But Rudy Gobert quotes it and says, "It is sad to see someone that has accomplished as much as you did, Shaq, both in sport and business, still be triggered by another man's finances and accomplishments. I get the entertainment part, but like, unlike other folks, you don't need that stuff to stay relevant." I think Rudy is entirely correct, and I'm fully on his side on this one. It's well documented that I am a Shaq hater. I like Shaq the player a lot. It's very fun to watch Shaq just be way bigger than everybody in his highlights. However, he's kind of a douchebag. I kind of can't stand his personality, and he's deeply jealous and weirdly pretty insecure, which I don't understand why you would be. Rudy says here, like, you don't need that stuff to stay relevant. You are fucking Shaq. You don't need to be trashing other guys all the time. But he says Rudy Gobert is the worst NBA player of all time. That's fucking dumb. The worst NBA player of all time is someone who played for 2 minutes and never played again. I think I saw someone quote this originally with, like, there is this guy who played one game and he went 0 for 7 and then never played again. That is the worst player in NBA history. Not a is it 3 or 4-time defensive player of the year? 4-time defensive player of the year. Like, I don't know what, that's fucking ridiculous. There's no other way to put it. It's fucking ridiculous to say that Rudy Gobert is the worst NBA player of all time. And he's just deeply jealous of Rudy Gobert's money. Anytime he talks about Rudy Gobert, he brings up the money without fail. And it's because Rudy plays the center position and he got paid a whole hell of a lot more money than Shaq ended up making just due to the times that they played the game. I don't know what to tell you, dude, other than tough shit. That's just kind of how it goes. Do you think Wilt Chamberlain wasn't upset that you were making millions and millions and millions of dollars even still when he was getting $200,000 a year paychecks, which I believe by inflation does actually get you to about $1 million, but one way or the other, that's just the way it goes. As time goes on, these players are going to get paid more and more. We're going to see guys making $80 million. We're going to see guys making $100 million one of these days. Old players being jealous of that, I get it. But I also don't. I can't imagine having what's Shaq's net worth? Let's look this up. This says that Shaq is worth $400 to $500 million a year. Not a year. What? Fucking, I was reading something else about his year pay on fucking whatever. $500 million, man. $500 million with a B. A B. Okay? This guy has enough fucking money. Get over it. I don't understand it. Like, how can you have this much accomplishment, this much legacy, and this much money? You're also a giant, and everyone, for the most part, loves you, even when you routinely behave like a douchebag. What is wrong? What is upsetting to you? What is bothering you? I don't get it. It's extremely petty, and it's extremely childish. You're fucking 50 plus years old, man. It's about time to grow up. I didn't think I'd have to tell a 300-pound man to grow up, but like, good fucking God. It's extremely lame. I am not happy about it. I might, at some point, not even might, I'll probably almost definitely make this video. I'm gonna make a main channel video called the Shaquille O'Neal Hater Manifesto, because man, the way this guy has carried himself post-career, especially in recent years, I think it's gotten worse in recent years. It's extremely sad to me, and I hate it because I could like the guy otherwise. He's funny, and he's an all-time great player, but he's just always on some bullshit. The Chicago Bulls signed Talen Horton-Tucker to a partially guaranteed deal. I don't know if he will actually end up making it through the preseason and all that, but Kenny points out another Chicago-born player on the roster, which makes 4 now. I don't actually know all the other ones. I know that Buzelis is. He's not good. I don't think he'll ever be good. He was obviously like the dude that Lakers fans were obsessed with for a while, but that's just kind of like the Lakers fan making a young player a bigger deal than they are thing. I think that kind of happens anytime a contender, but especially a very popular, a very well-known contender has a young player. People talk about that young player like they have so much more upside than they actually do, and they don't end up playing much because they're on a contender, and it's for good reason. Unfortunately, THT is a slasher and a decent mid-range shooter, but he can't shoot a 3 worth dick, and he has tunnel vision, and he's not a good defender, so I don't think he's going to be in the league long, but hey, he extended it a little bit longer. Ivica Zubac, my twin. Let's see, let's pull this up. Can I make that face? Anyways, he is signing an extension, 3 years, $58 million, 20 years, $20 million a year for a good starting center is pretty much going to be the asking price right about now. Makes sense that he got that money. I don't really know what to make of the Los Angeles Clippers and what they're going to look like in the future, but I don't think securing Zubac on a longer deal is a problem. I'm just going to rapid fire these ones at the end here. GG Jackson, he is having surgery on his right foot, and he's going to be out for the first month of the season. Given how much Memphis has struggled with injuries the last couple of years, who knows if he actually is going to be back within a month, but that's something to watch out for them. It definitely leads them to starting at a weird place, because I hope that the Grizzlies don't like get super momentum and then they try to implement G.G. Jackson in after the fact, and then it's kind of awkward because he's a young player and he definitely has to learn how to play with a really good team. But I don't think it should be too big of an issue, but it's definitely not ideal. Rudy has informed me that the Memphis Grizzlies have a long history of underselling and underreporting injuries, so keep that in mind. Markieff Morris agrees to a one-year deal with the Dallas Mavericks. I think he's in that category of role player where it's like he can survive on the floor in a postseason. So getting that guy for next to nothing to potentially come off the bench ain't too bad. Cedi Osman turns down a deal from, it was the Lakers, right? I don't know why they wouldn't. I feel like Cedi is pretty good, or it might be Cedi, but whatever. Turns down a contract with the Lakers. I feel like he'd be really good for the Lakers. He's like a good shooter and capable enough at everything else. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Last but not least, Nets are fielding offers for Cam Johnson. That makes sense. Apparently there was some discussion with the Cleveland Cavaliers. What's his name on Twitter? Jokic Star? Is that what his name is? Is that how you say it? I just read it. But he asked on Twitter who the most important role player of this season, not on the Celtics, will be. I think Cam Johnson, after he gets traded to a good team, could be the most important and impactful role player. I really think OKC should trade for him. I think he's a perfect guy to put out there who doesn't have as many limitations as like a Lou Dort. And Tristan Thompson agrees to a one-year contract. How he is still in the NBA, I do not know. I also misread that. Cam Johnson is not in Cavaliers. Jimmy Butler is fond of Brooklyn via the New York Post. So who knows how true that actually is, but that's another thing that's been reported. That's your NBA news. Check out Hot Takes Tuesday when that comes out tomorrow. And there is also going to be chapter 1 of a new main channel video that is about Wilt Chamberlain that will be available over on our Patreon if you want to get an early look at it. We were originally going to do director's cuts, but we're now going to be releasing chapter by chapter. So if you want to get a look at that, hopefully our Patreon link will be in the description as well. I'm going to be live streaming, Twitch link in the description. Go check that out.